Okay. I don't make my own plans. God gives me his plans and I act on it. You are to act on the plans that God gives you, or even better, you build it. God makes it, you build it. God designs it, you build it. That's one of my, I work in the construction industry, and one of my favorite, the type of project that's most common is called design build. And a design build is a project that somebody else designs and someone comes in and builds. So you get a team of architects and engineers. They don't know how to build something, but they, obviously God knows how to build it, but they give you the plans. And then a general contractor comes in and builds out what the architects and engineers put together. And so there's a blessing that comes in following instruction. Okay. Another thing that I picked up, and one of the ways you could pick up a vision, right? God, how do I get a vision for my life? Because one thing that I've also learned is that there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. And so if you don't have mentorship, or you're not in church, or people talk about how you don't have to go to church to be saved, which, while that is a true statement, the Bible says not to forsake the gathering and the assembly of the saints. And also, how can you be amongst elders? How can you be amongst people who can lead you and guide you and help you when you're experiencing warfare, or help you when you're going through a rough patch? How can you get uplifted when you need to be uplifted if you're not in an environment where it can happen, right? If you're isolated by yourself, well, God is not the God of isolation, right? God might call you to himself, just to be alone with him, but God will not put you into solitude and condemn you and make you feel like you're a lone ranger. No, there's a wisdom in a multitude of counselor. So there's something about having wise people around you who have walked farther than you. One of my biggest meters for gauging if somebody is a great mentor is, in the area that they're mentoring me, do they have the results that I'm seeking? And so if somebody doesn't have the results that I'm seeking, right? My marriage counselors for my wife and I, they've been married for 30 years. They have a great family. They love each other very well. They're like very much on the hip of each other, not like, one day they sleep on, one person sleeps on the couch. No, you can tell there's a unity. You can see their children. You can see that there's a joy, there's a life, there's love in their household. And that's who I allowed to give me counsel. One of my other mentors, he's a very successful businessman, but he's also a very great man of God, an evangelist as well, who, has seen thousands of people come to Christ through his ministry. And so these are people that I have closer to me speaking into my life. My pastor as well, who's, got an amazing track record in the ministry, and those are my counselors. Those are the people who are speaking into my life, and, sometimes I don't see certain things the way that I should, but when I bring it up to them, or they come to me and they say, hey, the Lord was speaking to me about you, is everything okay? It helps me so much more. So mentorship is important. And so a great example is Timothy and Paul, right? In the book of 1 Timothy, I believe, chapter 4, Paul talks about, or I think it said 2 Timothy 4 or 1 Timothy 4, but Paul tells Timothy to fan into flames the gift of God that you received by our laying on of hands on you. So think about it. Paul mentored Timothy to become this great evangelist. The things that we watch Timothy do, it came through mentorship. And I love how, a mentor can see beyond the things a student may understand, okay? And a mentor has wisdom beyond the years of their student. But I want you to think about this word, an apprentice. In trade school, or when you do a trade, like let's say this is a practice that has been around for thousands of years. But when you're going to be, an electrician, or when you were going to be, an ironsmith and do ironwork, even make swords, guess what? If you were first starting out, you started out as an apprentice. And as an apprentice, you watched an older person do the work, and the older person taught you how to do the work directly. And so as you're working, you're learning from somebody who has more experience. And so an apprentice is able to skip many more levels than somebody who's just reading a book about, smith work and things like that. Does that make sense?